Hello everyone. I have a brand new pedal again from the guys at Warm Audio, the Throne of Tone, the TOT, the TOT. Now, this pedal is a combination of some insane sounding pedals. If you haven't guessed, it's a combination of the BLUESBREAKER and the King of Tone. So they took the best of both worlds, put it into this pedal. It's a bunch of knobs, a bunch of toggle switches, but we're going to go through all of them and I'm going to show you what you can do with just the toggle switches alone. So it's a supremely versatile pedal. You can have one side be a BLUESBREAKER and the other side be a King of Tone. Or you could have this side be the King of Tone and this side be the BLUESBREAKER. Or you could have a BLUESBREAKER here and a BLUESBREAKER here. Or a King of Tone here and a King of Tone here. So yeah, you got 4 possible combinations. You can feed the BLUESBREAKER into the King of Tone. You can feed the King of Tone into the BLUESBREAKER. You can feed the BLUESBREAKER into a BLUESBREAKER. You can feed the King of Tone into a King of Tone. You get my point, right? And with each side, you have multiple gain stages. You can have a high gain, low gain. You can kind of adjust the mode between OD, boost, and distortion. OD will be the the true to the original gain stage of the BLUESBREAKER, King of Tone. And you can have it up to distortion where it smoothens out the clipping and has nice natural harmonics to it, or you can have it in a boost mode where it kind of affects the tone more when you have the gain cranked, right? Okay, other than that, each of it has a volume, gain, tone, and presence knob. The presence knob works the opposite compared to the rest, where the rest of it goes from turning counterclockwise to clockwise. You get an increase of tone or volume or gain. However, with the presence knob, you can see it's labeled off on the clockwise mode, fully clockwise. And then if you turn it counterclockwise, it's gonna increase the presence. So, what I'm gonna do today, I'm gonna use my guitar, going into the pedal, going into the front end of the Rockerverb 50, which is on a edge of breakup tone, the crunch channel, going into a tuba vertical cabinet being mic'd up by 2 SM57s, and I have some reverb, because it makes me happy, hey. Now you can of course use this with a clean channel, but I highly do not recommend that. You'd want a edge of breakup, you want a tube amp, you want something where this pedal can really push the front end of that amp. So, for people who are not familiar with the BLUESBREAKER and a King of Tone type of tone, let's get to what I personally do in the studio. Why I like the BLUESBREAKER is that naturally at where the settings are with the gain down low, you will hear that the BLUESBREAKER is often loved because it kind of takes what the amp already does and just elevates that. So, in other words, it's transparent, right? Okay, so here it is without the BLUESBREAKER. With roughly the same tone, you're going to hear the tone affected more as I crank up this gain. So it's taking what you have and just taking it to the next level, which I love for lead recordings in the studio. Now the King of Tone side, it's going to be a little more different. It's going to add a little bit more fatness to your sound. So, you kind of have a side where it's pretty transparent, brings out more spank in your tone, and you have something that can fatten that up. So this is probably a very lethal combination for a pedal format here, because you can get everything in between with just these two styles of overdrive. So, let's fool around with the BLUESBREAKER side. And I'm just gonna, fool around with the toggle switches first before I even touch the gain knob. As you can see, I have them set up pretty similar. I'm gonna max out the volume, and then we have the drive knobs there. So let's just screw around with the BLUESBREAKER mode, alright? So early in the morning, my hands are not warmed up. Anyway, cranking up the gain a bit. Now, if I just bump the gain mode to high, let's leave that at noon. Going to distortion mode. So you can hear how much the toggle switches can just change everything, and I don't need to tweak the knobs as much, right? So let's now quickly go to the King of Tone side. Bumping the gain up to high. Sweet, right? Nice and thick, nice and smooth. Now I'm going to combine them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just leave it in OD mode. Let's have the gain switches up high. I'm going to just turn this back. I'm going to leave it in the middle, like what the heck, right? Okay. So here's both sides combined. insane, right? So another thing let's kind of highlight here is that which pedal you're feeding into, which side is going to kind of affect the tone, right? So let's just say we have the BLUESBREAKER, which is brighter, spankier. We have the King of Tone, which is fatter. So if I were to have the BLUESBREAKER first and then going to the King of Tone, you're going to have the BLUESBREAKER tone as the core tone, right? You're going to have the spankiness, right? But you flip that around and you have the King of Tone first into the BLUESBREAKER, then you're going to have the thickness of the King of Tone right there. So let's hope that you can hear this through the YouTube compression. Now the BLUESBREAKER is feeding into the King of Tone, right? So this is how it sounds. So that's the King of Tone into the BLUESBREAKER. You can hear the fatness come in. BLUESBREAKER into King of Tone. I hope you can hear that. So there you go, guys. That is the Throne of Tone, and there's an infinite amount of tones right here. I can do a live stream for 3 hours and just flick toggle switches and turn knobs, but this is the bass tone that you can kind of get, you know, and bang for your buck again. Excellent value for money. The King of Tone, as you know, is a waiting list of 4 or 5 years, and there are people who are selling it for an insane amount of money on the market. There are other replicas, but I feel they're not as close as to what the guys at Warm Audio has achieved. So hey, leave a comment down below if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Get your Throne of Tone today.